Hello. The story I'm going to tell you today takes place in the New Territories of Hong Kong. This is one of the three major regions of Hong Kong and accounts for 86% of its total area. The New Territories consist of a portion of the mainland and over 200 islands of varying sizes. In the Sha Tin district of the New Territories, there's a modern urban area called Kwai Chung. Kwai Chung is home to one of the world's largest container ports. Within this area stands a residential complex named Lai King, a 25-story building constructed in 1975, considered one of the earliest structures in the region. On the third floor of this complex, there's a secret room, a place shrouded in ghostly legends, where no one has been able to stay for long. Once, an elderly woman moved in. She had heard the rumors, but dismissed them, believing that as long as she hadn't done anything wrong, she had no reason to fear spirits knocking at her door. However, after moving in, she began hearing eerie sounds at night, moans or faint sobs echoing from the hallway. Furniture in her home would inexplicably shift positions without any clear reason. Less than a month later, she hurriedly packed up and left the building. Next, three burly men moved into the same room. Like the old woman, they scoffed at what they called superstitious nonsense. Yet, after settling in, they too experienced inexplicable terror at night. They fled within a month. Over time, more people tried living there, but no one could stay for long. Eventually, the room was abandoned for years. Its heavy iron doors were sealed shut, sending chills down the spines of curious onlookers and even unsettling the neighbors on the same floor. At night, they often heard footsteps, like the clacking of high heels, echoing through the hallway. The room's door would swing open on its own for no apparent reason, accompanied by the voices of two girls coming from inside, sometimes arguing, sometimes crying. Residents also frequently spotted dark shadows moving around the room or along the corridor. As these supernatural incidents piled up, the residents of the third floor began moving out one by one. In a place like Hong Kong, where space is scarce and housing demand is sky high, the emergence of a haunted apartment cast a dark shadow over the area. The room later earned the infamous nickname Hong Kong's #1 haunted house. The situation also took a toll on the local rental market. To prevent things from spiraling further, local authorities sealed the apartment with bricks and cement, claiming it was to connect it to the floor below. But the residents didn't buy this explanation. They all knew a tragedy had once unfolded there. On a Tuesday in 1984, with temperatures in Hong Kong rising to 20 degrees Celsius, a man suddenly broke into apartment 16 on the third floor of Lai King. Inside lived a family of three. The mother, Duong Hu Quan, 53, a janitor at a local school, and her two daughters, Luong Tuet T, 22, a recent graduate of an English college in Tsim Sha Tsui who worked as a secretary for a government agency, and Luong Tuet Nan, 18, a high school student. The sisters were 4 years apart. Their father had passed away from illness a year earlier, leaving the three women to rely on each other. After his death, Luong Tuet T took on a significant role in supporting the family. A neighbor, Mr. True, who lived in apartment 13 on the same floor, witnessed the man storm into their home. That night, the intruder grabbed Duong Hu Quan, holding her tightly in the hallway while forcing the daughters to open the door. Desperate to save her mother, Luong Tuet T unlocked it immediately. The man rushed in, attacking the youngest daughter with a knife, then the mother, and finally the eldest. Before the two women could react, they collapsed. The man fled the scene. The attack happened so abruptly that Mr. True couldn't respond in time. He quickly called the police. Upon receiving the report, police and medical personnel arrived at the third floor. The three victims were rushed to Princess Margaret Hospital, a kilometer away. Examination revealed multiple stab wounds and severed arteries. Their conditions were critical. The two daughters were pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital, while the mother, after emergency treatment, survived the ordeal. Word of the incident spread rapidly through the local community. Besides Mr. True, many other residents in the building witnessed the event. Based on descriptions from neighbors, police learned the suspect was slightly overweight and might have been the boyfriend of Luong Tuet T. For days earlier, She had reported an assault by a man to the police, but her mother, fearing the repercussions and damage to her daughter's reputation, chose not to pursue the case. That man was someone Luong Tuet T knew. To understand him better, let's rewind a few years. Luong Tuet T was a student at an English college in Tsim Sui where she met a classmate named Deep Thu Van. He was the second child in his family, with an older sister. Deep Thu Van lived in the Ho Tai urban area of Sha Tin, about 11 kilometers from Tuet T's home. During school breaks, he'd take her out, and over time, they became a couple. After graduation, Tuet T became a government secretary, while Thu Van joined the Hong Kong police force as part of the mobile unit. Their busy schedules reduced their time together, but they stayed connected through daily phone calls, maintaining a strong relationship. Thu Van was devoted to her. If she disliked his smoking, he quit. If she disapproved of drinking, he stopped. If she objected to gambling, he gave it up. However, their relationship lacked approval from both sets of parents. Thu Van's parents adored Tuet T and urged him to marry her soon, but Tuet T's parents disapproved of him, viewing him as violent and morally questionable. They forbade her from seeing him. Later, due to disciplinary issues, Thu Van was sacked from the police force. He took up temporary work at a hotel, which gave him more free time to pick Tuet T up from work daily. Still, her family's opinion of him didn't improve, especially after learning of his dismissal from the police, which only deepened their distrust. Once, suspecting Tuet T of seeing another man, Thu Van attacked the supposed rival, causing serious injuries. At first, Tuet T brushed it off, thinking his actions stemmed from love, not realizing the gravity of his behavior. Over time, his jealousy and paranoia grew. He forbade her from interacting with other men, his controlling nature intensifying. Combined with her parents' relentless opposition, Tuet T began to see Thu Van wasn't marriage material and started distancing herself. In October 1983, her father fell ill and passed away 5 days later, leaving the family devastated. During this time, Thu Van stepped up, rallying friends to help organize the funeral. This softened Duong Hu Quan's stance toward him, and she began to accept their relationship. Thu Van resumed driving Tuet T to and from work, earning some goodwill from her mother. To foster harmony, Duong Hu Quan even allowed him to move in. Neighbors grew fond of him, nicknaming him the chubby boy for his kindness. But this decision would lead to horrific consequences. Tuet T's younger sister, Luong Tuet Nan, for years her junior and a high school student, disliked Thu Van from the start. She felt his presence made the house noisy, disrupting her studies. 2 months later, in December 1983, when only Tuet Nan and Thu Van were home, he loudly chatted with friends on the phone. Annoyed, she confronted him, asking him to lower his voice. Instead of listening, he grew angry and attacked her, bruising her face and breaking her nose. When Duong Hu Quan and Tuet T returned and saw the scene, they immediately called the police. Thu Van was kicked out. Yet, days later, Tuet T reconciled with him. The family even attended his sister's wedding together, and he was allowed back into their home. But on a day in early 1984, everything changed. That afternoon, Duong Hu Quan received a call from Thu Van claiming Tuet T had been in an accident and was in the hospital. Panicked, she and Tuet Nan rushed there, only to find no record of her. It was a ruse. Returning home, they found Tuet T on the sofa, topless, gagged, and hands tied, while Thu Van sat on her. Furious, Duong Hu Quan called the police, demanding he leave. Thu Van begged for forgiveness, claiming he'd tricked them to be alone with Tuet T to resolve an argument that spiraled out of control. When police arrived, Duong Hu Quan downplayed it as a misunderstanding, fearing scandal, and didn't press charges. The police left. The incident fractured their relationship. Duong Hu Quan forbade Tuet T from seeing him, and Tuet T decided to end things. But Thu Van wouldn't let go. On a day in 1984, at his home in Ho Tai, Sha Tin, his expression darkened. He grabbed a 20-centimeter knife from the kitchen and headed out. His parents tried to stop him, but failed. Later that day, A neighbor spotted Thu Van kneeling outside apartment 16, tears streaming as he whispered Tuet T's name, begging forgiveness. Duong Hue Quan and Tuet Nan, inside, ignored him, hoping he'd leave before Tuet T returned from work. Spotting her below, they shouted for her to stay away. Seeing their distress, she fled to a nearby police station. By evening, escorted by 2 officers, Tuet T returned home. Thu Van was still there, pleading with the police for forgiveness. She shouted she'd never forgive him and threatened to expose his actions if he didn't leave. The police, deeming it a lover's spat, urged him to go. He left with them. The family sighed in relief, thinking it was over. But half an hour later, Duong Hue Quan opened the door to find Thu Van kneeling again. He lunged, grabbing her legs, sobbing for mercy. She retreated, locked the door, and called his parents to take him away. When they arrived, they were furious to see him begging. He ignored their pleas, yelling he'd die if forced to leave. Tuet T retorted she wouldn't shed a tear if he did. Stunned, his demeanor shifted to rage. He calmly told his parents he needed the bathroom, then walked toward the stairs. Duong Hue Quan, sensing the crowd outside, invited his parents to the stairwell to talk, hoping to de-escalate. She suggested he see a psychologist. Unaware, Thu Van, returning, overheard her, eyes wild. He drew his knife, seized Duong Hue Quan, and moved toward apartment 16, shouting that if the sisters didn't open the door, he'd kill her. Neighbors fled in panic. Tuet T, desperate to save her mother, opened it. Thu Van shoved Duong aside and stabbed Tuet T. Tuet Nan rushed to intervene, but was slashed across the face. As Duong tried to stop him, he attacked her too. She fled to the kitchen. Thu Van's parents, witnessing it all, froze in shock, then fled without helping or calling police. Thu Van walked away calmly. After multiple calls from neighbors, police and medics arrived, finding the daughters with fatal neck wounds and Duong gravely injured. The girls died en route to the hospital. Duong survived after a month in critical care. The next morning, police arrested Thu Van at his home. He didn't resist. Mr. True from apartment 13, who'd seen everything and first called police, noted Thu Van's parents did nothing to stop the tragedy. They even used his phone but didn't call for help, instead informing someone 2 are dead before leaving. 5 months later, on October 20th, 1984, Thu Van faced trial at Hong Kong's High Court, charged with 2 counts of murder and aggravated assault. He admitted to assault but denied murder, claiming Tuet T provoked him, causing him to lose control in a spontaneous act. On October 26th, the jury unanimously convicted him of both murders, sentencing him to death. Dissatisfied, he appealed. In 1985, a second trial at the High Court upheld the original verdict after a 5-judge panel rejected his defense. His lawyer argued Tuet T's words, "I wouldn't cry if you died," triggered him, but the court ruled his actions were premeditated, not impulsive, given the delay and his use of Duong as a hostage. The appeal was dismissed on an unspecified date in 1985. Duong Hue Quan survived and moved out of apartment 16. Rumors of hauntings persisted. Residents reported TV static, dripping water, and girls' voices behind the now-sealed wall. Many on the 3rd floor left. The housing authority converted the room and its neighbor into a utility space, bricking up the door. Over a decade, the story faded, though some believed the sisters' vengeful spirits lingered until Thu Van's death. In 2012, a resident passing the 3rd floor saw a shadow dart by, but found no one. In June 2014, a pregnant, unmarried woman in a hospital gown nearly jumped from Lai King's rooftop, but was saved. In August 2018, a 55-year-old man leapt to his death from the same spot, leaving a note citing illness and despair. Some speculated the sisters' ghosts influenced him. Apartment 16 became known as Hong Kong's #1 haunted house, its legend enduring. Thu Van remains in prison, his execution unfulfilled. From a criminological psychology perspective, Thu Van's escalation from jealousy to murder reflects a volatile mix of obsession, rejection, and poor impulse control. His behavior, marked by stalking, violence, and manipulation, aligns with patterns of possessive abusers who lash out when losing control. The premeditated nature of the attack, despite his claims, suggests a calculated intent to punish, not a spontaneous outburst. The haunting rumors may stem from collective trauma, amplifying the tragedy's cultural impact. This case underscores how unchecked emotional instability can spiral into catastrophic violence. That's the end of today's story. See you in the next one. Goodbye.